We have to ask, what happens when these exact structural mechanisms, coercion, identity capture, and loss of agency, are used to enslave the mind,
Huh.
specifically in the context of children and education?
This is where it gets very challenging.
This is the most provocative argument in our stack, and we need to approach it with extreme care and rigor. The source material claims that widespread, institutionalized, shame-based teaching practices
Specifically, those that assign collective, inherited blame to children.
can constitute a form of systemic emotional abuse, or, structurally speaking, enslavement through shame.
We have to pause right here because the terminology is designed to shock. The sources are absolutely adamant that this is a parallel of structural logic used to deny agency and dignity.
Not a moral equivalence.
Not a moral equivalence with the physical suffering, the violence, and the generational cruelty of chattel slavery. This comparison is purely functional. We are comparing the architecture of the cage, not the pain felt inside the cage.
That distinction is crucial, but I have to challenge it a bit. When you use the word enslavement, the listener immediately thinks of the historical reality, the chains, the auctions, the whip. How can any pedagogical practice, however poor or misguided, functionally share a blueprint with those immense historical evils without diminishing their memory?
It's a fair challenge, and I think the defense from the sources lies in that three-part blueprint we just defined. The source material focuses on the child's fundamental right to dignity, which is derived from the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child.
Okay.
And their argument is if an institutional practice consistently and systematically denies a child agency and individual identity through coercion, it is utilizing the same structural logic used by historical exploiters. Even if the tools are psychological rather than physical, we are analyzing the mechanism of control, not the quantum of suffering.
Understood. So let's
Yeah.
identify the specific harmful practices the sources criticize,
Yeah.
the ones that trigger the structural comparison. We're talking about curriculum and classroom management that shifts from teaching history and moral reasoning to personal moral indictment of the child in the room.
Exactly. The practices cited include things like compelled public confessions or highly publicized privileged check-ins, which force children into performative compliance.
Okay.
Labeling children as oppressor or inheritor of guilt based purely on their ancestral or group identity, and constructing a system where a child's intrinsic worth or moral standing is measured by how willing they are to accept an externally assigned negative group status.
The sources argue the line is crossed when historical learning shifts from preventing future injustice to moral indictment of the present non-agentic child.
That is the line.
Okay, let's apply our three-part blueprint to the classroom context then.